All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get cracking. All righty. So first I'm going to welcome all of you to the Vice and Presidential debate for SGA. Very excited to have you all again, hosted by the Entrepreneurship Club. We had a lot of fun last year doing this, and this year it's just going to be so much better. So without further ado, I'm going to call up the Vice Presidential candidates. All right. First I've got Elise Engel, Adrian Miller, Williams. Oh, I'm so sorry, Adrian Williams. I apologize about that. And then Tyler. Where did you go? Here's not Tyler.
Austin.
Austin. I sincerely Rex.
Austin Rex.
Austin Rex. Yeah. From now on, I'm going to call it Austin. All right, so let's just hop right on into it. I want to ask the three of you, what does the role of Vice President mean to you? We're going to start with Elise.
All right, guys, my name is Elise, but I am speaking for LaFrance. She could not be here. She's the one that's actually running for Vice President, so I'm going to do my best to relay her thoughts as if they were my own. I would like to start with a definition of representative. Merriam-Webster defines representative as a person chosen or elected to speak and act on behalf of others in a legislative assembly or deliberative body. And I would like to specifically emphasize the words on behalf of others. This is very different than from in place of others. I think that emphasis is very important and central to our platform. The audience will hear in a few minutes from my friend and colleague Sarah more about what it means to be a student representative and what that vision means to us. So I don't want to dwell too much on that. However, being Vice President means to us that you are the right hand in building and maintaining that vision. So to us that means standing firm and reinforcing the stance that students come first. And of course we understand that there is an extensive network that holds the student body up. So this opens the door for some ruffling feathers, conflicts of interest. But being vice president means offering a level head and a voice of reason, encouragement and clarity. And being vice president means being an additional figure who not only deserves but can handle the trust that students will eventually invest in us to holistically listen and accurately represent their concerns and needs.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go on with Adrian. What does the role of Vice President mean to you?
Well, first off, I want to thank the Entrepreneurship Club for hosting this again. It was a great event last year, and you guys have done a wonderful job. And I apologize for my casual appearance. I was in a long organic chemistry lab, and it was just hot. But concerning the role of Vice President, when I think of that and having served in that position for a year, the first thing that comes to me is staying informed and knowing what's going on, not only in student government, but in the university as a whole at all times, and being able to eloquently explain that to any student that may ask you at any time. Staying in constant communication with the Senate. The Vice President presides over the Senate, and they work with them to inform them about pertinent legislation, things that are going on in the university. Many of you may have heard of the Campus Engagement Project that is going through our Wright State Senate. So it's very important to keep them informed and make sure that they have an ear to the streets and are informed about anything that may be coming out of the organization. I work very closely with Daniel, the president, to craft the vision and direction of the organization. And it's extremely important for the vice president and president to be on the same accord at all times and really understand what's going on and have a unified front at all times. The ability to kind of complement the president, kind of explain to students some points that they may not understand, that may not have been clearly communicated to them, and ensure that their voices are being heard in a more in-depth, down-to-earth level. obviously serving on behalf of the president whenever he's not available. And another thing that has kind of arisen this year in my role as vice president is connecting with local politicians and statewide politicians to advocate for causes on behalf of all students. I've testified on a number of bills, including some that would provide scholarship opportunities for students affected by the opioid crisis. We're still continuing our push to make textbooks tax exempt, and Daniel, I, and Ivan worked very hard to save Wright State students $1 million+ in the last year alone due to textbook affordability. So those are just a few things that I think the vice president role is focused on and centered, and it goes way beyond that, but for the sake of time, I'll stop it at those few.
All right, well, thank you. Next one, we'll move on to Austin.
Yeah, so as vice president, obviously a lot of what Adrian said is true. Being one of the main representatives of the student body gives you kind of a position where you are able to and kind of asked to represent their concerns to administration and other authorities on campus. Being able to advocate for student concerns on that level is very personally important to me. I hear student concerns a lot of the times from friends or from people that know I'm in SGA and want me to do something, but I feel like a lot of the time I lack the position to actually see things done. So being able to work closely with those higher ups and kind of advocate for concerns at a higher level is personally important to me because I care about student concerns and being able to do something to help out every student. Further than that, something that Adrian said was overseeing the Senate. Every senator oversees their own constituency, whether it's their college, the residential students, the commuter senators, or the commuter students for the commuter senator. So working with people that have their own constituencies and working over them is kind of difficult because you represent a large body and they represent smaller bodies, but you all have different concerns in those different areas. So working with that Senate to empower them to be able to reach out to their constituency, make the most positive change that they can in their own constituencies is really important as vice president. I believe that presiding over that body will allow them to exercise agency while also offering feedback and consultation to them. That can be very helpful for them to be guided in their efforts in advocating for their constituencies so that they can perform and enable students to have their opinion heard.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm going to go into the next question. What changes would you suggest making to the parking system? And I am going to hold responses to about 2.5 minutes apiece.
Same order?
Yeah, same one.
Okay. So this is something that we would certainly like to know more on. It is a problem that affects the students in a lot of different ways. So I think that collecting student opinions is something that would be very valuable. We do have a few ideas, but we would like to see how they pan out, how well received they are. One of which would be a good grades initiative, so kind of offer a certain percent off a parking fee depending on your GPA. That's a structure that is mirrored in a lot of different bodies all over the place. It's seemed to work, so I see no reason why it couldn't be implemented and successful here. Another thing would be to kind of subsidize lot 20 and 4A, the kind of undesirable lots, maybe again with a reduced fee, certain percent off in the bookstore, free basketball tickets, I don't know, but something to subsidize the undesirable parking spots, kind of relieve that stress from the University Hall, Dunbar Library parking lots, what have you. One thing that we have noticed is that it seems that there's a few too many faculty parking spots, so maybe readjusting the need for faculty parking lots and reallocating them to student parking spaces. And again, these are all very premature ideas. This is something that we would love feedback on to see how well received they may or may not be.
Thank you. Go ahead, Adrian.
So this is actually something I've worked a lot on this year with the current commuter senator, Eli Smith, and we have a lot of data on it. A lot of people don't know this actually. The university actually has an ongoing parking study that they are doing, and they have been doing for the last, I believe, 18 months. So last school year, they did a study. Basically, they had parking attendants in the majority of lots on a day-to-day basis during high traffic times, low traffic times, and tracked the usage of lot, the spots that were used the most at what times, et cetera, et cetera. And due to the results of that study, over the summer, last summer, they added about 160 faculty to student parking spots. Not only was that study done last year, but it continues to be done this year. And the response we've gotten from the university is that there will be additional faculty spots converted over based on the data that they've analyzed this year. They're just waiting till the summer to do it because the paint takes exorbitant amounts of time to dry. And I expect that, and they've indicated to us that this is going to be an ongoing study, not just something that ends after this year. So going forward, it's likely within the next 18 months that Wright State doesn't have a parking problem anymore. So that's something I've been proud to work on this year, and Eli, the current commuter senator, has done a phenomenal job with that, and it's been great to kind of work with the university administrators on that as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Austin.
Cool. So actually, a lot of what Adrian has just said kind of takes away from some of what I have to say, so I don't have to debrief you on that study that's been going on. So the parking system at Wright State, it can definitely use improvement. I think this is a pervasive issue at a lot of college campuses. You'll never find any where it's like a perfect situation, because there's always those times where it's cold or it's rainy and a lot of people want to drive and park and it gets stuffed up. But doing what we can to improve what we have instead of seeking a perfect system is the best that we can do. So going on from the study that was done, all those new transferred spots are based on like current data, so advocating for that to still go on, especially with changing enrollment and the changing amount of commuters because of that, will allow us to like continually optimize the amount of parking spots available for students. And along with that, the parking rules not being super apparent on a lot of the postings is also a big reason for why people think we have a parking problem. They'll get a ticket and not really understand why they did, because they parked somewhere that they thought they could at that time, but it wasn't made visible and posted somewhere like on the sign right at the lot, instead of the sign only saying students are yellow, or which ones are yellow and which ones are white. And then, so making that more visible can kind of cut down on, if not the problems that we have, people running into those problems. I would also, obviously as Vice President, work closely with the commuter senator, as Adrian has, to gather their ideas on improving parking, as this is a closely commuter-related issue.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else around this issue that the three of you would like to discuss? Moving on to the final one, final question, excuse me. What concerns you most as a Wright State student? There's a lot of things that are going on this semester, so I'd just like to give you an opportunity to connect with the students out there. We're going to go in reverse order this time. Austin first.
Beautiful. Okay. In that case, so as a Wright State student, my biggest concern is always spirit. And I think that's kind of a blanket term that is thrown around a lot as a buzzword, but I think something that it can boil down to is a lot of students not seeing Wright State as a home. So students like myself and a lot of other ones that are really involved in organizations on campus, we care deeply about Wright State because we have a connection to something on campus, instead of just going to classes, going home, and feeling that detached connection to Wright State. So I believe that a vibrant and strong student life that makes students care about the time that they spend between classes is what differentiates between a good and a great institution. So advocating strongly for students to get involved in something on campus, whether that's an organization or a club or something like that, finding something that they're passionate about, whether that's something that their interests lie in right now, or even getting out of their comfort zone and finding something else, trying different things, that can really improve their connection to Wright State. It can increase retention, it can increase spirit, and I think that is one of the biggest concerns that I have, and that's kind of a way to alleviate that.
Go ahead, Adrian.
So I'm just going to add one thing to the last question I just remembered. I'm also working with Dr. Daniel Crane, who some of you may know. He's a pretty influential faculty member, and he's also the chair of the Ohio Faculty Council statewide. And Dr. Crane is tackling the parking issue in another way, and he's noticed that a lot of the reasons we have parking issues is that there's a couple massive freshman lecture courses that meet at similar times on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and his goal is to kind of spread them out more evenly so they're back-to-back instead of like stuttered, and that will be implemented this fall, and that will also have a significant impact on parking as well. I just wanted to add that. In terms of what concerns me about being a Wright State student, You're going to hear a lot of people talk about spirit, and that's definitely a thing, but Wright State has an extremely diverse and unique population. A lot of people come here because we have the cheapest non-subsidized tuition in the state. We do not have typical students. We have a lot of non-traditional students, and we have to cater to the needs of our student body. So the biggest thing for me, I'm going to kind of go on some bullet points here, is college affordability. And I'm going to talk about some of the work I've done with this. I've, as I said, worked in the State House to work on textbook affordability, inclusive access, and the next thing I would say is minorities and marginalized communities feeling at home on campus. We have a fairly large number of minorities and marginalized community members here at Wright State, and ensuring that we can not only get them in the door but keep them here is a massive key to our university staying successful for the future. And as many of you may know, the Retain the Nine initiative that Kevin and I started has aimed to tackle that, along with a bunch of university administrators and local city leaders, and that is an excellent thing that we are excited about, in addition to events that I've helped put on, like the Women in STEM event, and a bill that I'm working on in the Ohio State House that would establish a mentorship program and scholarship program for kids affected by the opioid crisis. Mental health of students is extremely important to me as well. Continuing to work with counseling and wellness to tackle their honestly abhorrent wait times for students who need those mental health services. We're still looking into ways to collaborate with the medical school and the nursing school to bridge that gap so students can get the help they need when they need it. And I am concerned about campus morale and spirit, especially with the strike that we had this year. It really brought the morale of students, myself included, down, and that's not okay. Something that I'm working on right now is partnering with the Rowdy Raiders Spirit Section to make them a registered student organization so they can have leadership and continuity, a budget, and provide events, things like that, and really make it official so students can get involved and have leadership opportunities in that as well.
About 20 seconds left.
Yep. I'm going to finish off working on the campus engagement project to give students a recreational center that is comparable to those of other universities, stressing collaboration between the colleges with the Senate as VP, and doing a lot of things with my work statewide as well, as I said, providing legislative events for students to gain experience, and just really making Wright State a leader, not only in the Dayton-Fairborn community, but on a statewide and national level.
Thank you.
First off, Austin and Adrian, I think they both make fantastic points. In fact, that vibrant student life, as well as paying attention to our underrepresented, marginalized students, are very central to our campaign. And I think that all kind of revolves around this idea of community that is seemingly lost from Wright State. Commuters come and they go, they don't come back. Dayton is hyper-segregated, and that segregation doesn't really go away when you come onto campus. So I think we really need to foster that idea of community in the many ways that both of you guys have gone into, but kind of going on the other side of that. And I realize that I am in a room full of current SGA members, and I realize that our campaign in particular may seem as a group of outsiders to many of you. So if you can't look at us as your colleagues, I ask that you please listen to us as fellow students. Let me tell you that as a whole, the atmosphere on campus really sees SGA as a tool to keep the student body as an arm's distance away from the administration. They don't see SGA as holistically representative of the student body, accurately listening to and expressing and achieving solutions to the concerns that many people have. For example, the dilapidated state of so many of your buildings. There's ceiling tiles falling out of the tunnels that are just waiting to take someone out in the wrong spot. I'm from experience, of BioSci building is pretty old, needs renovations. Our hoods don't work, things like that. I am glad to hear just how closely you guys are looking to solve the parking issue. I know that's a very contentious topic on campus. I'm glad to hear that that is being addressed. But as a whole, there's many things that are going unnoticed and flying under the radar. And I think SGA really needs to bridge the gap between them and the rest of the student body. and I would say that is our largest concern as a Wright State student.
Well, thank you, Elise, and
Thank you.
would you all join me in thanking our two vice presidential candidates and our one state.
Good job.
We're just going to have a brief intermission.